Today was a very, very early session. I think I got the computer around sometime like 1:45 or so this morning. That wasn't really part of like the 3 a.m. habit, like that early morning habit that I'm trying to sort of install. But that was simply practicality. I had actually been at a party the evening before and had just gotten home around sometime, I don't know, sometime after 1. And basically I need to be asleep and then up again at 5 a.m. For a beach trip that me and my wife went on today. So uh, operating only a couple hours of sleep the whole day, and just I happen to have that I guess that small window of about, I'd say about, I don't know, it was like a half hour, 45 minutes. It wasn't a whole lot of time, just to sort of map out what I'm going to do now with restructuring those few next chapters that I talked about in yesterday's video. Looking at just I guess the kind of bigger picture here with the write every day. I'm getting into about day 175. I'm getting somewhere close to that, which is that's a pretty impressive feat. It's been over, I think that's over 6 months now at this point, I think, or somewhere around that. And for me, it's also today's kind of a bigger, sort of holds kind of, I guess, kind of a bigger thing for me, in the sense that around this time last year was when I went on my writing hiatus. I mentioned, I think, very early on in my early videos. If you ever go back to look back to see them, but basically back in last summer, I had a case. It was a mixture, I guess, of like writer's block, mixed with like basically summer blues is really what it was. There were some personal things going on in my life, kind of a tragedy that I experienced around that time, mixed in with some writer's block and some kind of confusion about what I was going to do with my projects going forward. That I took a hiatus from writing, which is really what set up the rest of last year. I mean, most of, after basically, I think like July, August, whenever it happened, I think it might have been in August instead of July, but kind of whenever that happened, I basically took the rest of that fall off and didn't start getting back into it until earlier this year when I started to write every day. So it's interesting to be at this point now, basically a year later from that, when I took the hiatus and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with my writing. I wasn't sure what I was going to work on or what could become of my project. The novel I'm working on now, that the small town wrestling story novel that I've talked about, the one I'm working on here, that was in its infancy when I started this whole thing. I mean, I had maybe, I don't even think I had like 50 pages written at that point of a first draft, just the general ideas of what I wanted to do. And I kept on kind of revising the beginning over and over because it wasn't doing what I wanted. I couldn't figure it out. I was getting frustrated. At the same time, I guess this is a bit of a tale about what happened, but at the same time, I was actually doing a grad cert program with basically my MFA. So I'd gotten my MFA, I think a year or two prior, and what had happened is I decided to go back for just an extra year of a grad cert. Basically, what it is just, it's an extra year to work on a project that you were working on, just something to polish it up, something where you're working with professors again, and other authors, and basically you just get a chance to spend an extra year revising it. You get the grad cert, which is great for like teaching credentials and that sort of thing, but really it's a chance just to spend an extra year kind of collaborating with authors on your work and getting a chance to get a bit closer to publication. And so I was kind of beating my head against my head against the wall here, basically with actually the tarot novel, which I now just obviously queried a couple weeks ago. I was sort of frustrated with that, and at the same time I had the idea for this project, and neither project was really working for me. It was just that state of confusion, that frustration at the time, and so I ended up dropping out halfway through. So I got like 6 months of a 1 year cert, and so started in January, so I dropped out that June. And obviously, I haven't gone back, and I'm not sure if I ever will go back, but I ended up dropping out. And so right around the same time, I started just kind of getting that confusion in that sort of disillusionment with writing in general. And around this time, last year, I basically stopped for that period. It was the longest I think I've ever taken a hiatus, just because, and it was the most complete one I've ever had. Like the most complete like block of I am not going to be writing during this time, that I've had since I really committed to taking this seriously, about, I don't know, about 8 years ago, something like that. So it's interesting now to be at that point again, and just kind of coming around to that and getting, sort of examining what's happened, I guess, in the past year, and how kind of far along I've gotten this stuff, and sort of how much I guess I've kind of maybe overcome some of that stuff that I was experiencing with the project earlier. But man, I mean, I'll be honest, man. Like that summer blues, man, it still exists. Like I was feeling it today. Like honestly, I was feeling a lot of it. Just kind of going to the page. I don't know what it is about this time of year, and I'm sure a lot of it is just, there's a lot. I do a lot of partying, obviously, in the summertime, and I'm not getting as much sleep. I'm getting a lot of, like, obviously sun exposure and that sort of thing, which, kind of, you get overexposed to things like the sun and all that stuff. It affects things in the same way that if you go, for long winters like here in New Hampshire where you don't get any sunlight at all, you also kind of experience like that winter depression, people call it. It's the same thing. I'm experiencing it now. It's obviously not the level that it was last year, I don't think, at all. But yeah, I'm definitely feeling it. Like you said, I'm definitely not feeling my most inspired self, I guess. And a lot of it too is it really is also the project. I mean, it's like last year. It's the same thing. Writing is a constant state of confusion and uncertainty, and trying to figure out a puzzle that seems to always be changing. It's like a Rubik's cube that, like, you figure it out and all of a sudden it just rearranges itself right at the very end. It's like, okay, you figured it out, it rearranges itself to a completely different pattern, and you got to go back through and you got to do it all over again. And there's a whole different combination to figuring it out. That's a lot of it, because right now, I mean, I actually thought I was a bit further along with the story than I might be. I might be further back than I thought. I mean, that my hope was obviously to, my own personal deadline was by like September, potentially October, to have this story done. It might take me to the end of the year. I mean, it might be the end of the year, it might be early next year that maybe I finally get the story queried off. And it's certainly not, like, I'm not necessarily in any rush. I mean, these deadlines are really self-imposed, so I shouldn't. There's definitely part of me that doesn't think I should be beating myself up over it at all, but it's still, like, I'm always trying to get something done. I'm always trying to push myself a little bit harder here. Just, a lot of it too was just this with the sabbatical, like the obviously, the past 5 months where I wasn't working. I felt like I had to do a lot of production, put a lot out there, simply because I would have felt like I was wasting my time. Like I would have squandered all this opportunity if I didn't, produce so much during that period. But yeah, I mean, right now it's just a lot of confusion with this project, and obviously that kind of summer blues feeling again. It's not going to get me this year. It's not going to be like last year at all. I simply not going to allow it, to be honest. Like even if I get days where I don't want to write a single word, I will still come to the page, basically turn on my computer, sit at my desk, and I will hammer out like a sentence. I will revise a single sentence just to film it and throw it up on here, just to keep the momentum of this thing going. Because at this point, I don't want to stop. Like I want to keep the streak alive for as long as I can do it, because there's been a lot of benefits to doing this. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's its own little challenge here, mixed in with all the other things. I mean, most of what a writer experiences is not just the project. They experience all the things in their lives, also affects their creativity. And obviously I'm no different to that. Anyone that tries to write is going to experience their own hardships and difficulties and all that. So that was a bit of a rant, obviously, or a bit of a, I don't know if it was a rant, but a bit of a kind of meandering sort of tale there. But that's where I'm at. That's really where I'm at with the project right now. Just revising here, a couple of extra chapters again. Still waiting to hear back, obviously, as well on the other novel, the tarot novel there from the publisher. So I'm still waiting to hear back on that. Obviously, fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. I mean, we're gonna find out with that. If I potentially have a deal or not. Hopefully, in maybe the next month or so. So there's some good news there. Kind of waiting on the horizon. And yeah, I mean, however long it takes, whatever it takes, I am gonna get this novel done, even if it takes twice as long as I've anticipated. Let's hope it doesn't get to that point, but yeah, for the next probably month or two, basically the rest of the summer, it might be a bit hard, might be a bit more difficult to get this writing done, but I am still committed to it, and I'm not going to be missing a single day.